What is going on, guys? It's Modded Warfare here. Welcome back to another PS4 news update video. So I've been away for the past week, so I've been a bit out of the loop on some of the things that have been happening over the past week. So if you have as well, hopefully this video can bring us all up to speed here. So before we get into this, the channel just hit 300,000 subscribers, which is awesome. It happened whilst I was away on holiday, so I haven't really had time to prepare any videos or anything related to that. So I'll probably be doing a Q&A and a couple of other videos, special videos for, hitting that subscriber goal. So just want to give a huge thank you to everybody, of course, for subscribing to the channel over the years and supporting my content. I really, really appreciate it. But yeah, we'll do some more videos relating to that very soon. But anyway, let's get into the news here. So probably the biggest piece of news that's come out over the past week is that we have this no Blu-ray drive updater from Lightning Mods. Now, this is still in the testing phase. It's not been released yet. And there's some controversy about how it's going to be released, which we'll get into as well. But yeah, this is actually a really big deal, even though it's only for a small number of people who will find this useful. It is really going to be a lifesaver for those people because if you have a broken Blu-ray drive in your PS4, then you can run into this issue where you cannot update the firmware, because when you try and update the firmware, it does some kind of check with the disk drive to make sure the disk drive is working. If the disk drive is not working, it does not allow the system to update. You will get an error code when you try and update the firmware. So obviously this is a huge problem. Now, in previous firmware versions, much older firmware versions, you could bypass this by just unplugging the disk drive from the console, and then it would still update anyway for whatever reason. It would update and you'd be fine, and then you could plug the disk drive back in or just leave it unplugged and you'd still be able to be on your updated firmware. But, since about, I'm not sure exactly which update this came in on, it may have been around 5.05, but at some point Sony kind of patched that so that you can't update by just unplugging the disk drive. So if you have a broken disk drive, you cannot update the system. Now, obviously, you could replace the disk drive, and if there is a mechanical fault in the disk drive itself, then that is probably not going to cause this issue. It's usually if the actual circuit board of the disk drive is damaged, and that's a real problem, because if there's a mechanical issue with the disk drive, like, say the mechanism that takes in the disks and spits out the disks is broken, or the laser is broken, or the little motor that spins up the disk. If any of those components are broken in your disk drive, you could just buy a replacement disk drive that's the same model as the one that you have in your PS4. And if you try and put that disk drive directly in the PS4, it will only be able to read Blu-ray movies. It will not be allowed to actually play PS4 games. And that's because each disk drive is uniquely matched to the PS4 console itself. To the motherboards. So similar to the Xbox 360, the way that you had like a DVD key that was on the firmware of the disk drive and on the firmware of the actual console itself, and they had to match. So if you used a disk drive from another console in your console, the keys would be mismatched, and therefore the disk drive would not work correctly. It would not play games. So it's the same thing with the PS4. So in order to get a disk drive replacement, you just buy a disk drive that's the same model, and then you take the circuit board from the old disk drive and you put it on the new working disk drive, and that way the keys match and the disk drive will work no problem. The problem is, what if the circuit board itself for the disk drive is the thing that's damaged? If there's like a blown resistor or a blown fuse on that circuit board, or a dead chip or something, then you're basically screwed, because you can't swap that to another drive because it's broken, and that's the board that reads the key that has to match with the actual console itself. But not only is it not going to work, but you're also not going to be able to update the system. So that is where some people are landed in. If you're on, say, 5.05, 6.72, 7.02, 7.55, any of those kind of firmware versions, and you're wanting to update to 9.00 for the more stable jailbreak to be on a higher firmware, then you're not going to be able to do that. So that is where this no Blu-ray drive updating system comes in from Lightning Mods, where it's basically a payload with a companion homebrew app that will allow you to update the system even with the broken Blu-ray drive, so that you'll be able to update to 9.00. So this was the initial tweet from Lightning Mods, where he says no Blu-ray drive testing is over, and so far it's been 100% success rate. Soon I'll be putting up a website with an AIO no Blu-ray drive guide and instructions on how to get a license for the package. In preparation for this, I'm releasing the payloads to the public. So he's released the payloads but the payloads, you need more than the payloads in order to be able to do this. And then next you see he basically added the following new PS4 firmwares to the no Blu-ray drive updater for anyone wanting to test. So 5.05 is supported, 5.50, 5.55, 5.56, and 6.02, as well as all these other firmwares are all working. And these are all versions that will allow you to update from those firmware versions to 9.00 if you have a broken Blu-ray drive. So the controversy around this comes into the whole licensing part of this. So Lightning Mods wanted to charge a license per user to be able to use this. And there's some people in the community who are getting a bit upset by this because Homebrew traditionally has been free. And, you know, the majority of the community, I believe, want to keep it as such. We want to keep Homebrew being free for everybody. So there were some people being a bit upset about this. My personal opinion on this is that, you know, it's up to the developer. If the developer wants to go that route, wants to implement a complicated licensing system and everything, and, you know, wants to take the risk on that potentially being cracked at some point and being released for free. And, you know, if they want to go down that route, it is their choice at the end of the day. They put the work in to make this. And if they want to charge a fee for it, then that is their decision. It's up to them. So that's the way I feel about it. But obviously, I would prefer not to see that become a trend where suddenly all these developers who are making Homebrew are all charging license fees for all of their different Homebrew apps. Then, you know, then we have a bit of a problem. So I can kind of see where the hesitancy around this comes in. So since then, Lightning Mods has kind of changed his strategy around this after, as you can see here from this tweet, after reading replies, I saw that some people didn't like the licensing model. So would it be better if I just put a goal/bounty on my Ko-Fi? Once reached, it will be free for everyone. So I think this is a better approach generally that most people will be happy with, where instead of charging a license fee, he will just have a donation goal. And once that donation goal is reached, it will be released free for everyone. So everyone can benefit from it, even people who didn't donate, then that would be good. So, you know, if he's got the donation link up by the time this video goes up, I'll put it down in the video description so you can go ahead and donate if you have the spare cash to do so. So there was a bit more controversy surrounding this as well after that. So you've got Michael Crump, who's more critical of this whole licensing model initially, coming out and calling out Lightning Mods basically that he's still charging $10 for a license and doing the donation goal at the same time. That's not what I believe is going on here. I think from what I read into it from Lightning Mods, I believe he was essentially charging $10 as like a donation. You donate $10 on Discord right now to get access to it early, but I believe that's still going to count towards his overall donation goal. So when he sets up the Ko-Fi donation for the main release, all the people who donated the $10 for the early version, those donations will count towards the end goal. So it's still part of the same donation goal thing. It's just if you want to get it early, you can donate directly now and get access to it early, the earlier version. So I believe that's how it's going. I could be wrong. In which case it's not like he's doing both. He's not doing the license and doing the donation goal at the same time. They're all part of the same thing, as far as I'm aware. And that seems to be what Lightning Mods is clarifying here. No, I'm not doing both. The money on Ko-Fi goes towards the goal. Once the goal is reached, it's free for everyone. The people that donate get a key to use the updater before the goal is reached. So there is a licensing thing going on, but it's only for the early version, and the money that people donate for that early version, for that license, still goes towards the end goal. And then once that goal is reached, everybody will get it for free. So I don't think it's really too much of a big deal. So anyway, that's what we've got going on right there. A bit of controversy. So yeah, that's the main piece of news. These other two news topics are quite small, so don't worry. It's not going to be too long. So yeah, on the other hand, we have another thing with HackerOne. We have Cturt. We have a closed report from Cturt. So one of Cturt's reports has been closed here. That's all the information we have. Not really much to say, just worth keeping an eye on it. Although there was a tweet here from Homebrew Tester talking about HackerOne and how Cturt for some reason had more like reputation and rank than the Flow, even though the Flow seems to have been creating more reports on HackerOne. And of course, Cturt just responded here saying, not sure how these metrics are calculated, but I wouldn't pay too much attention to them. The Flow's chain is more complete than mine, at least anyway. I recommend focusing your ETA when inquiries to him over me, which is a little bit telling because it does tell us that Cturt has got an exploit chain either for PS5 or PS4 on a higher firmware that he has reported to, PlayStation, which we all pretty much knew anyway, but, it's nice that that's been pretty much confirmed and that the flows also got exploit chains going on. But again, we already knew that from his posts on, the PS5 jailbreak that he got going. So it's just nice to have a little bit more clarification on that. So that's what we've got going on right there. HackerOne is still worthwhile just keeping an eye on, just in case anything comes from that, in case we get any disclosures in the future. So last but not least, we have Kameleon here, who created the Pkg-Backup Payload. So this came from me creating my how to extract a PS4 package files from your installed apps video. So the previous video on my channel where I showed you how to back up the apps on your PS4 to a USB or external hard drive, because of course the Easy Package Extractor was not updated to 9.00, so does not work, which is a really handy homebrew app to back up your package files, as well as the PS4 Xplorer app has had the functionality removed to be able to copy the package files from the hard drive to the USB. So there wasn't really a convenient way of doing it. So my kind of, solution was just to use FTP to show you where the package files were located, so you could copy them to your computer and then back them up that way, and how to improve the FTP transfer speeds as well, so you can copy the package files much faster. So I covered all of that in that video, but obviously it wasn't the most convenient solution. I mean, you could use app to USB, but then you're physically removing the package files from the hard drive to put them on the USB instead of backing them up. So not a perfect solution either. So Kameleon saw the video and decided to create a payload that would do this for you, that would be more convenient because it wouldn't require a computer. It could just back up the package files directly to your USB drive, and he has done so. As you can see here, he's created a modded version of the game dumper payload that will now allow you to back up the package files, the base game, the update, and the DLC. He named it Pkg-Backup, and he's uploaded it to his exploit host. So yeah, this is just really useful because now you can just run a payload and it will dump all of your package files to a USB drive. It will not, actually decrypt them. Maybe dumping them is the wrong word. It will copy them to your USB or external hard drive so that you have a backup of your package files for your games, your DLC, and your updates. Now, in terms of improving this in future, it would be nice to see an INI file, since it's based on the game dumper payload anyway, which uses an INI file to configure how you want the package files to be dumped normally. Then this package backup could use that INI file to specify what package files you want to back up, because right now it just dumps all of them, all your DLC, your games, your updates directly to the USB drive. But if you had an INI configuration file on the USB that would tell the payload how you want to dump things, how you want to back up the files, so that you could say, maybe I only want to back up the DLC, maybe I only want to back up the updates, or only the main apps. But again, this is just the early version of the payload. I'm sure additional options like that could be added and hopefully will be added in the near future. So that's what we have going on right there. So a couple of quick things to mention here just at the end. First of all, congratulations to Lappy for his PS4 Xplorer app getting over 100,000 downloads on the Homebrew store. I believe that's combined with, downloads through Package Zone, so the Homebrew store on the PC, as well as the one on the actual PS4 itself. But yeah, 100,000 downloads is crazy. That's way more than any other Homebrew app has got through the Homebrew store, and that doesn't even count downloads for previous versions on, other sites and on his own website, Lappy's own website as well. So it's not even counting those. It's just downloads from the Homebrew store, from packagezone.com, and from the Homebrew store on the PS4. So yeah, that's an incredible achievement. It's a really, really useful application. It's the #1 Homebrew app that I install first on any new jailbroken PS4. So yeah, congrats to Lappy for that. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video or found the information useful. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll hopefully see you guys in the next one.